Well, back in 92 or 93, my second cousin, well, I guess it would be first cousin once removed, my natural mother's first cousin, so first cousin once removed, was a woman who was in Mensa. And she was quite smart, and she was part of the clan that lived up in the Duluth Superior area, around the edge of Lake Superior. And so she came, we met one time, and then a few other times later, we got together. Now, she was probably actually a couple of years older than my birth mother. She was about 25 years older than me. She's dead now. I liked her, and she suggested that I take this IQ test to get into Mensa. And I remember the Mensa standardized test then in 93. I do remember the copyright was 1969 when the test was made. And so I took its typical 150 to 200 questions. And I remember there were probably 12 to 15 questions that I knew the answer they wanted, but I disagreed with the premise. The two that stick in my mind the most, and as you sort of rethink things, they become bigger than they really were one was about how many side they would have polygons, and you have to pick the polygon with equal sides, equal number of sides. So it would be a square, a hexagon, an octagon, etc. And then there was a triangle, and then there was also a circle. And they wanted me, of course, to pick the triangle. But I said, there's two possible answers, because a circle has an infinite amount of sides. And is infinity, even or an odd number? Well, it's neither. It's infinity. So I disagreed with that premise there. So I did choose infinity, I remember. And then the other one was a more social question. It had 4 or 5 choices. It said, what is the odd utensil out, or the odd thing out? And so it said on the table, it would have a knife, a spoon, a fork, a cup, and I think it was a cup and then a saucer. Or what thing that it doesn't belong here. And I know that they wanted to say, I forget what they wanted me to say. One of the other things, but I haven't grown up poor. Said, oh, the saucer could be out. So and it showed the cultural bias, because the idea implicit is that everyone would have a cup and a saucer. Whereas, they'd have to have that. I forget what the actual one was, but those two stick in my mind. One with the obvious cultural bias against people who were impoverished, and the other one that was mathematics. And like I said, there were 12 or 15 questions, and I scored, I think, in the 94th percentile, and you have to be in the 98th percentile. But I'm sure that if I had gotten those 12 or 15 questions, had given them, I would have probably gotten in the 98th percentile. But the people in the Minnesota Mensa Society there, or the Twin Cities Mensa Society, whatever it was, were typical nuts. I remember these two nerds playing chess and almost getting into a fist fight, arguing over who was the better general, Lee or Grant. And then I remember this attractive blonde woman who was probably a decade, 10, 12, 15 years older than me. I was, I guess, 27 at the time. She was probably 40-ish. And I remember her coming up, and I was wearing a turtleneck. And I remember her just rubbing my chest and saying how she liked my pectoral muscles. And I remember thinking, okay. And the 3 or 4 times she came up to me, she was rubbing it. And if I hadn't been there with my cousin, who knows? She might have invited me out back to do her or something. But
didn't you say that you tried to talk to her, but she only wanted to rub, but not have any further interaction?
Yeah. And there were other ones that fit this there. And I was really surprised. I figured they would be a bit, different, but they fit the typical stereotype of the nerd, geek, whatever you want. And so that was my experience with Mensa and these tests, which, again, I could see what they wanted me to say, but I just on principle couldn't say it, because I didn't believe that was just the one correct answer that they wanted.